Pam, you said an amazing thing, really, really provocative, that transcendence, and of course churches think they're in the business of facilitating communion with the Most High, that transcendence actually has a concrete connection, a generative connection to sense of purpose and commitment. Could you say some more about that?
Yes, absolutely. No, as I was saying, I really think this is one of the least tapped resources the church has. And so in the field of positive youth development, which is where the tribe I identify with as a researcher scholar, we're really discovering the significance of transcendence in kids' lives. When kids have an experience of being connected to something bigger than themselves. So in the Christian tradition, we would talk about being connected with God, or connected with the communion of saints, or all of the believers, or all of God's creation. When we experience ourselves as part of that, and this is technical, but it's a cognitive understanding and it's an emotional experience. And churches, I think, need to tap into both. Often we teach the cognitive beliefs, but we don't give experiences of awe and wonder and the emotion that enables connection to be experienced in a meaningful way. We can do that in worship, we can do that through service, relationships, etc. But when kids have that experience of transcendence and being connected to something bigger than themselves, and they understand themselves like as a beloved child of God, it ends up informing their identity. So it changes their concept of themselves. And it also does, when doing that, it integrates a moral sense of wanting to be obliged to that transcendent other. And consequently, what happens is then behaviors change. So when I have an experience of transcendence, and my identity changes, how I understand myself and how I understand the world, that results in something that I would describe as fidelity, which is a concept we don't hear a lot about in our culture. But when kids have a sense of fidelity, of a loyalty to what they believe, that actually changes their actions. So when I have an experience of love of God, this transcendence, I experience myself as a beloved child of God and wanting to participate in God's work in this world. It actually informs how I live my life and changes my actions. So I had the opportunity to interview these 30 amazing kids around the world. Actually, some of my graduate students interviewed some of them because I was pregnant and could not travel. But I remember particularly one boy articulating just what I was talking about, this experience of transcendence, this transformation of beliefs, self-concept, and his being propelled or fueled to engage in the world and to serve others. And the more he served, the more he experienced transcendence. And I think it's an amazing cycle. So the more engaged, it's like a praxis model. The more we serve and encounter another, the more empathy we can have for another person, the more we realize there is more beyond ourselves. So I understand transcendence to be like a fuel that propels kids in generative activities. So at the end of the day, when it's hard, or if it's just to get into college, that's not a lasting motivation. But when I'm a part of something bigger, and I like to articulate part of God's ongoing work in this world, when I'm part of God's story, that keeps me going.